Episode 3. The magic number 3 is the magic number. Thank you for joining us on Wait, What? Sports. Now go ahead with your commentary because I can see it turning in both of your heads when I sang that song. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't know what the hell is wrong with you.
You don't know what that song is from?
No.
Come on, man. Schoolhouse Rock.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm going to turn my mic off now.
I lost all respect for you just now. Anyway, I am one half of your dynamic duo of sports, Gina. And over to my right, as always, is the lovely Miss Amy. Hello again there, my friend.
Hi, Gina.
And I have to do this right this time because I forgot to introduce our awesome, amazing producer, Elijah. Hi, Miss. Oh, sorry. A.K.A. Dr. Robinson.
Hello. Hello.
He's so happy with that title. You never thought you'd be a doctor, huh?
No.
Don't let it go to your head.
Yeah, please. No ego chips, please.
I promise.
We will revoke your license.
I promise I will not.
I will turn you into the medical review board.
Okay. All
Okay.
right. On that note, I'm going to turn
All
my
right.
mic off.
Okay. Just want you to know it's serious business in these streets. So we are back for episode 3, as I said. We are really excited. We hope you enjoyed the first episode of, baseball is a pretty complicated sport. So we'll break it up, but there's going to be some different episodes on different arenas or areas of the sport of baseball. But like Amy said, we're going to break it down and give it to you chunk by chunk so you can absorb it and actually use it in game.
And baseball season is incredibly long.
It really is. You don't need the whole thing right now. It wasn't like the Masters where the Masters is a weekend and then there might be a break and then there'll be another golf tournament, you know?
Well, there's almost always golf, but the big tournaments come around, 5 or 6 times in a summer.
Mm-hmm.
But baseball, we were actually talking about it after last show.
Ooh.
If you go
I'm going to do it every time.
You good over there?
I don't know. Go ahead.
Just no water on the computer, please.
That's why I put it on the other end of the table.
So, as we were talking after the show last time, baseball season's so long that, if you started at spring training, if you planned it out, you could have a World Series baby.
I wish we had a camera in the studio right now because the face that Dr. Eli gave. He
is trying to ring the bell on us right now.
Excuse me? I still say somebody out there is a baseball fanatic enough to say you were born during the World Series. There is somebody in the world, I guarantee you, some baseball nut who absolutely is addicted to the game.
Well, if you think about it, we're starting opening day a little bit late this year.
Yeah.
But it's still in April.
True.
And World Series is played in October to November, end of October. So April, May, June, July, August, September, October. That's 7 months.
Yeah, it's pretty doggone close.
So,
if you got a head start in January,
spring training,
you still line up kind of pretty much on par for a World Series baby.
So, that being said, we don't want to throw everything baseball at you all at once.
Neither do we need to.
We are also, and we would like to let you know this, we will be breaking it up by covering other summertime sports here and there in between.
Right.
And other major events.
Because there are quite a few coming up.
And other, like I said, major events, maybe not even summer sports, maybe winter sports that are finishing up. So that we don't bore you to death with baseball.
Yeah.
Because although Eli's looking at me like somebody can be bored to death with baseball, yes.
You're sitting across from her.
Not everybody is a baseball fanatic.
So, okay, and we talked about this. So, Amy, what brought you around to watching baseball and becoming such a huge baseball fan? Because I know you said on the last show that was not your focus.
So, I was always a football person. We watched all sports. My grandfather loves basketball and football. I grew up actually on a college campus, which is weird, I know. My parents were resident directors at an all-girls college outside of Cleveland. And I basically had 70 older sisters every year. And a number of them came from Cleveland. Even though I lived in Northeast Ohio, we all rooted for Bernie. Kozar fever.
Right.
You
You gotta earn some brownie points with Eli.
I mean, Eli could break out into the song. Bernie, Bernie.
Oh my God.
Oh, baby.
Please stop. Please stop. For the love of God, please stop.
So, I mean, I don't even know if you guys are old enough to remember that when it first happened.
I don't remember it. I feel like Eli has had some emotional damage. Emotional damage from that one. You all right over there?
But
Just get on with it.
But those of us of a certain age,
Mm-hmm.
there were songs and dances and everything for Bernie.
Wow.
Okay. I got really into football because of having these older sisters that were babysitting us and whatever during the games.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was actually had tickets in the dog pound, the original dog pound.
Whoa.
And when she would babysit us when we were watching on TV, she taught us how to bark like we were in the dog pound.
That's so dope.
I was like 8 years old. That was, my first sport of love.
Right.
And I went on actually to become a football cheerleader in high school. But I always liked baseball. There was something about baseball. I could go to the corner store,
Mm-hmm.
and for 10 cents, I could get a pack of 20 cards plus 2 pieces of bubble gum.
You're letting your age show. Eli's like, that's not real.
I knew it was real, but I knew it was way back ago.
Oh.
Yes, this would have been the 80s.
Yeah, we weren't born into the late 80s. Like late 80s.
So, I had nothing but brothers and male cousins.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the oldest of all of my cousins and my brothers. So I was kind of, the person that was watching over everybody. But as my cousins got into, and my brothers got into sports and baseball cards and whatever, and we all could actually do this. This is back in the times when cards were affordable. I saw a pack of cards at Walgreens the other day. I hadn't seen cards just out on a display any place in a really long time.
Right.
I was at Walgreens, and they had all these cards, and they had, the collector packs, and I was like, okay, not paying for those because, they had special edition packs and stuff.
Of course.
I was like, let me just see how much this regular pack of, 20 cards would be. Took it up to the front, $7.99.
Yeah.
What? For 20?
For 20 cards.
That's...
I used to pay 75 cents for 20 cards and 2 pieces of bubble gum.
Inflation is real, people. Inflation is real.
Don't forget those 2 sticks of tack card bubble gum that you would get.
Wow.
Because that was the important part.
The cards were just kind of in the pack.
Right, and I'm a baseball collector, so I
Do you still buy cards? When's the last time you bought some baseball cards?
Last time I bought baseball cards was the mid 2000s, but I got the whole 1976 season through 1980.
So Eli's going to card collecting places to pick things up like that.
Actually, I got it at a garage sale. So
Oh, see, there you go. Same thing almost.
Or something like that. I actually used to have 3 big binders worth of cards, plus 2 of my grandmother's recipe boxes full of cards.
Wow.
All I've got left at this point is my favorite cards from my favorite tribe teams. I've got my Charles Nagy.
Yep.
I've got my Jim Thome.
Yeah.
I've got my Omar Vizquel, Carlos Baerga.
You have your Kenny Lofton?
I think so.
Do you?
Yes, actually, I got the 1992 season, and I got the 1997-98 season.
So mine are probably 97 because I think I got them at the All-Star game.
Okay.
Okay, that would make sense.
But I gave all of my books and all of my collection of cards several years ago to a friend of my father's, who I actually gave it to her little boy. because she had a terminal illness.
Oh.
And so I gave him the collection. You know I had big names in there. None of them were probably worth anything. A, condition. B, like, I had a Jose Canseco. It was probably not a rookie card. I am 97% certain it was not a rookie card. So it's not really worth that much if it's not the rookie.
Right, right.
Which we'll go into card collecting at a whole different point.
Right. Oof,
but
oof.
that's still where I learned the statistics and I kind of got into some of that part of baseball.
Mm-hmm.
But really, as most people in Cleveland know, our team, when they played at Municipal Stadium,
okay,
was not the best of teams. I actually got to go to the last weekend of games at the Municipal Stadium for free.
Wow,
they
you're
were
part
giving
of history.
away tickets.
Really?
They were giving away tickets.
Were they that bad?
Yes.
Like how the Browns had a 0-16 bad?
Yes.
Whoa.
And I'm actually glad you touched on that because when I was a kid and I was, my mom would take me to the library. It was like so many like books that like I could read, and like I guess if I read like up to 6 books, they'll give me like Indians tickets, and I still got the ticket stuff from Municipal Stadium. This back in like 1990.
Ooh-wee.
So just to let you know, as a librarian, the Cavs, the Guardians, probably even the Browns, they all have programs where they work in conjunction with either public libraries or schools to promote education, learning, reading. The Cavaliers, because Dan Gilbert also owns the Monsters and the Gladiators and all of that.
Right.
I know several years ago they had a program where public libraries could ask to be part of their program, where when kids finished their summer reading program, whatever it is your library said it was,
right,
they could get a certificate that allowed them to have a free kids ticket.
Ooh.
With a parent purchasing the ticket. So the parent had to purchase their ticket.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm certain that for Cavs games, it was up in Loudsville.
Probably. Probably.
I'm not certain where the level was for Monsters or whatever.
Right.
And this, I think, actually was before we even had the Gladiators here, which they are coming back, correct?
I have no
Anybody
idea.
heard anything? I know that they stopped playing for a while because of the arena renovations.
Let's see.
I thought they were supposed to be coming back sometime soon. But
Good
anyways.
Producer, figure that out for us.
Okay, yeah.
Anyways.
Maybe we should have never given him that bell. I'm kind of regretting it already.
I, like most people in Cleveland, came into watching baseball when we lost the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
And when we lost the Browns in conjunction with the Indians getting really good, it was a perfect storm to convert somebody to watching baseball.
It just pulled you in.
Well, I mean, first off, you didn't have football to fill your time. Secondly, the Indians were so good, and they were a young team.
Mm-hmm.
So, especially somebody like me, where you're talking, I was in high school when they moved to Jacobs Field. Hee hee.
You're not technically wrong.
I'm not. It's history. They moved into Jacobs Field, what is now Progressive Field. I made him happy.
Yes, you did.
So when they moved into their new field, they were a young team.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in high school. And most of the players were quite cute.
Well, we've touched on this before. I mean, it is what it is, people. It is what it is.
I mean, sports draws us in different ways.
Yes.
But it was one of those things, once I started watching, I got hooked.
Yeah.
And it was a different era. Back then, they showed baseball on regular TV. You didn't have to have cable to watch.
Or the MLB package or whatever.
Correct. Channel 43 was actually the flagship station of the Cleveland Indians.
I remember that. I used to hate it.
And every Sunday, Channel 3 had Indians baseball on.
Right. In conjunction with Fox Sports Ohio.
But a few years after Fox Sports Ohio got formed, and that was actually bought by the teams. The Cavs and the Gladiators own, or not Gladiators, Cavs and the Guardians own part of that together.
So it became exclusive.
It became more of a thing where they didn't need a local TV partnership.
Got it. Okay.
And it really kind of sucks because I don't have cable.
Yeah.
Right.
Me either.
So I can't watch any of the games easily. Now, I could subscribe to this and get that and whatever. But part of the reason I don't have cable is because I don't want to spend the money.
Right?
And so it's really, really quite annoying to me that I can't just watch baseball right now.
Yeah.
And that when I can, usually late summer, fall, it's on Fox. It's on Channel 8, which I also don't get in because of where I live.
I don't get it all the time either.
But when you do get to see a game on broadcast TV, you have no choice over a team. It's whatever team they've decided to show you.
Right.
And it's not necessarily your team. And baseball is definitely a game of it. I want to watch my team. I can watch other teams play football. I don't want to sit through watching a different team play baseball.
Yeah, because Fox always has like a contract out on whether they're going to play their games or whatnot. But I remember back in the '90s, like Saturdays on Fox, it would be
all day.
It was all day.
All day. I remember that.
But in this area, they used to play the Indians a lot on Fox.
Yeah. So it used to be more like the football, where the local stations could flex to their local teams.
Because they had that contract set up to be able to do that. Okay.
So, but, I'm not going to, I loved watching when I was in high school and we had Fox Sports and I had cable. I loved the commentators that they had. Rick Manning and
Matt Underwood.
And I loved them. They were great. In fact, I liked them so much that I actually did do the write-in to have my brother's birthday.
Aw, that's
announced on
cute.
Fox Sports.
That's cute.
And we sat and we listened, and it never popped up. And 2 days later, the next game they played, they're like, we really want to apologize. We missed this the other day. So,
that's a good commentator when they are like, this means so much to us that we're going to make sure we still do it.
So, anyways, that's how I got into baseball. So, baseball is one of those games where it kind of takes you a little bit to really get pulled into it.
Agreed.
It's a slow-moving game. And not everybody has the attention span for it. And then there's people like Eli who will be sitting in the stadium scoring the game himself. So
that's actually true.
That is
totally true. He will argue if there's not the right amount of errors on the scoreboard.
Yeah.
So
are you that much of a baseball nerd?
Yeah, I am.
Oh my god.
So Dr. Robinson.
Yes.
We're going to ask you to turn off your mic for a little while so that we can get into the actual field of play.
Right.
Yeah, you gotta cut down some of your urges to want to be like,
Well, because we've also just spent a little bit more time talking about how I got into baseball than the actual idea for today, which was the field of play.
Yes. So we're going to jump right into that right now.
So when you think of a baseball field, what shapes do you think?
Diamond. Easy. Or like that little, it's like a triangle with a rounded back. That's exactly what I picture.
So most people, it is that diamond shape with like a fan up above it.
Exactly.
Okay. This is what the Little League fields look like. Your local neighborhood park.
With the fence in the back.
Right. This is what your high school baseball fields look like for the most part. Major League Baseball stadiums, however, have a lot more variation to them. For this discussion, we're going to use the Little League field as our prime example.
Yeah, because that's the one that, like, most people are familiar with.
Well, and stadium design can be a whole show in and of itself. And how they've changed over the years and everything else. Like, we were just looking at Fenway and Wrigley and the difference in the way that they were built compared to Progressive, compared to
so drastically
the newer
different
fields all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
And Progressive isn't even all that new anymore. So, there's a lot of things that have changed.
Right.
So, we're also going to be focusing primarily on the field of play. Not where the dugouts are, not where the bullpens are.
Right.
Not other aspects of the stadium that can change the overall shape of the field. So, what are some of the elements you know about a baseball field?
Okay, so we all know you got our bases.
How many?
Right. We have 4. We have home, first, second, and third.
Right. Most people forget about home plate being a base.
Yes.
Because we don't call it a base. We call it home plate.
Home plate.
Okay. And it's shaped differently. It's not shaped like the other bases.
True.
Okay. So do you know how far apart the bases are from each other?
No. 90 feet?
90 feet apart from each other, corner to corner.
Yes.
So I was just reading that, it's outside corner to outside corner, 90 feet apart, which actually means the heart of the base is something like 87.29 feet or something like that. And Eli's over there nodding at me like, yes, that's exactly the right decimal point.
Are you, like, fact-checking us as we go through this?
So what other aspects do you have of a field?
So we got the pitcher's mound.
Pitcher's mound.
Yes.
How far from home base is that? Any guesses?
It doesn't seem like it's 90 feet away. It feels like it's closer. Is it closer than 90 feet?
It's closer than 90 feet. It is actually 60 feet and 6 inches.
What? Why? I know there's no real answer, and we don't need to get into that, but why?
Okay.
Why the 6 inches, though?
So what else do you maybe know about a pitcher's mound?
It sits up.
So it is actually mounded earth.
Right. Doesn't it look kind of down towards home plate?
So it's mounded earth, and it actually has a rubber strip across it.
Okay.
It's like the toe strip.
Oh, because that's where their foot has to be on it the whole time they're pitching, right?
I'm not entirely certain exactly what the rule is. What I know about it is that it makes it so that they know that that's where they are.
Ah, got it. Okay.
It's kind of like the starting point, because as you pitch, you're going to actually step down the mound. Sorry, I hit the mic.
Oops.
Because I was trying to pitch.
Sorry, Amy. We're in the studio, not on a baseball field.
So as you're pitching, as your arm's coming around, your legs are coming around. So you're actually doing forward motion down the mound. So
okay.
it's kind of like this is my starting point.
Got it.
It's also a good place for you to like kind of get grip with your cleats so that you
Makes
can
sense.
Get more of a push off
Right.
for that pitch. What other elements?
So then we have our baselines. I do know that connect home to first, first to second, second to third, third to home.
Right. So that would be known as kind of the infield track or the dirt track, runner's path.
Right.
And that goes around just that interior space.
Right.
And the grounds crew do beautiful jobs keeping it nice and fresh for everything. And they try to have it not too wet and not too dry.
There has to be a science behind that.
Beginning of the game, there is actually.
There has to be.
There are actually programs that you can go to be a groundskeeper.
Oh my
But
gosh.
anyways.
Man, it goes deep.
Yeah, there are college programs for groundskeepers.
What?
Yes.
I mean, it makes sense because if it can't be too dry and can't be too wet because your cleats will sink.
Well, and the groundskeeper programs generally are at agricultural colleges.
Okay.
You have to learn about different types of grasses and
Makes sense.
all of that.
Makes sense.
And how to grow everything and blah, blah, blah. So
that's considered also, I know it's called the infield.
So it contains the infield.
Yes.
So then there's usually another secondary dirt track in major league parks where it will be a dirt track around the outside edge of the outfield.
Right before you get to the wall.
Yes. It's kind of as a warning for the outfielders.
Don't run into the wall.
So the moment because you're trying to catch a fly, you're looking up.
True.
You're not necessarily looking down or in front of you, although you're
Makes
doing
sense.
like a back and forth, kind of like when you're driving and you're
Yeah.
like trying to back out of a parking space.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're kind of doing that back and forth, but you really want to keep your eye on the ball, and so you're waiting to feel that change of texture.
So is there like an actual drop? Like you physically feel the difference between when your foot leaves the grass to when your foot hits the dirt?
No, you feel it's change in texture.
Texture. Oh, okay.
So you can actually feel the change in the grip in your cleat
Ah.
between the grass
And the
dirt. And that change is kind of your warning of you're getting kind of close to the wall. You might want to slow down a little bit. And yes, Dr. Eli, I see you raising your
He
hand
is
over
itching.
there.
All right. Well, be quiet. Go ahead.
Well, that's why when the announcer says at the warning track or at the wall, it's gone. So at the warning track, at the wall, it's gone.
Okay, so the warning track is that transition between the grass to the dirt.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird. Like, I guess I laugh, but you were probably you're moving so fast that if you didn't have that
So
to
every
warn you.
week, and I don't know if they actually showed like the Wide World of Sports bloopers anymore, but back in the day, Eli's over there going, "Thank you." The Wide World of Sports bloopers every week had somebody who hit the wall, went through the wall, went over the wall.
You could go through the wall?
in some places.
What?
Not entirely. That's why the wall is padded.
Yeah, that's why the wall is padded.
But I mean, you
nowadays.
could crack that bad boy at
But-
some point.
At Old Tiger Stadium, it used to be like that.
I was gonna. In the old days, since we've already established I'm old, okay, you used to actually be able to like crack into the wall.
Oh,
That's why
wow.
all the walls around a stadium are now padded.
It makes sense. And it's one of those things where like it probably was a breakaway wall for that reason. So that way.
Well, but they always have like a college game where the guys flipped over the fence, or a high school game where somebody's flipped over the back fence.
Yeah.
Or they'll show somebody climbing the wall to catch the fly.
So
I mean,
crazy.
I believe Lofton actually did that quite a number of times.
Yes, he did.
He scaled a wall.
Yeah,
He would.
Yeah.
You know those comedy routines where the guy runs at the wall and he makes it like halfway up?
Yeah.
Yeah, he would like be running for the wall, gauge the ball, jump, run up the wall a little bit. I mean, Spider-Man it, and like grab onto the edge and catch the ball.
That dude was a freak of nature.
Not only Kenny
Griffin Jr.
Kenny Griffin Jr. did that. Recently, Adam Jones did it in the World Baseball Classic.
Wow.
So I mean, but it was a really big thing. I mean, you saw it a lot in the 90s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um.
Were they padded at this point?
Yes.
Okay. That probably makes it easier to do too, I bet you.
Well, and it was one of those things where I think in the 90s there was a lot more people who were willing to put a lot more of their body on the line.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, when I talk about Baerga, when I talk about Omar Vizquel, they would lay it all out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it was just very, very exciting to watch these things. So you had mentioned the infield earlier.
Mm-hmm.
The infield is anything that's in front of the bases.
Okay.
So,
From the bases in.
right. So the grass, the pitcher's mound, all the way up to home plate.
Got
So
it.
that grassy area between home plate and second base is the infield.
Okay.
The outfield is everything that's behind the bases.
Kind of, makes sense.
So, we'll get more into this when we talk about player positions.
Mhm.
But if you were to look at a baseball field as an aerial view,
Mm-hmm.
you have right field on the right-hand side, left field on the left-hand side, center field
Down
right
the middle. Right.
Okay. It always messes me up because I was a theater person,
Mm-hmm.
and I realized this early on of watching baseball. Theater directions in baseball are actually very much the same. If you are a right fielder, you are playing to the left of all of your friends.
And it tripped me out when you explained this to me. Because at first when you said that, I was like, wait, I'm in right field, but I play left?
Right. So when a stage direction, if you're in theater, if you get a stage direction and it says you enter stage right, you're
Mhm.
actually entering from the left-hand side of the stage as you see it as a actor or as a player.
Okay.
But it is the right-hand side of the stage
For the audience. So in baseball, it's almost like you have to vision yourself looking in towards the field versus you being on the field looking out towards the crowd.
Right. So the labels on the field are from home plate.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking at everything from behind home plate.
Makes sense. Got it. Okay.
So both the outfield and the infield have great grass, and the grounds team does a really good job of keeping them trimmed and putting different decorations in them.
Man, immaculate.
And those, that's, one of the things about grounds crew is they learn how to mow the lawns in particular ways. And if you're one of those people out there who knows how to mow your lawn in a diamond pattern, more power to you. My grandfather used to be able to do it.
He really did it?
Yes.
How time consuming is that?
He tried to teach me.
I think that must not have gone well. What she said, he tried.
Well, my grandfather was very particular when I would go to mow his lawn, and one week had to be left to right, the next week had to be up and down, the week after that was diagonal in one direction, then it was diagonal in the other, because it helps the grass grow better.
Oh my!
And that's part of the reason
was
why
he part of a groundskeeper crew?
No. But that is part of the reason why they do those different patterns on the grass.
Okay.
Is to keep the grass growing evenly.
Interesting.
Things you never knew.
Da-da-da-da. Please give me that sound bite.
So the outfield wall, as we've already talked about, is kind of that end of the field.
Mm-hmm.
It is the solid thing that tells you that you are about to leave the field in the wrong way. Okay?
The visual that I get when you say that is like like falling off the edge of a cliff. Like that's the end of the world is flat. That is the end of the world. And if you hit that, you're going to fall.
See, whereas in my head, I have like Foghorn Leghorn. And so, anyways, when you're talking about, the outfield wall or fence, why would that be important? Besides the fact that you don't want to, as a player, run off, or through the wall at the end.
Or over.
Whatever. Right. So why would that wall be important?
Home run.
Home runs.
I knew that.
So
home runs.
Home runs go out of the park, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do they always go out of the park?
No, I learned that. They do not.
Okay. So there are a couple of ways that a home run may not make it out of the park. One of them is that in most of the modern parks, you won't necessarily see this at Fenway or Wrigley because they're older.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the new parks have a line painted on the outfield wall, a yellow line. Anything above that line is a home run, even if it bounces back into the park. If it hits an empty stand, an empty seat, and bounces back in, it's still a home run.
Huh.
Okay. Now, there's another way that you can have an in-the-park home run. An in-the-park home run is technically any time your runner hits the ball and makes it all the way back around to home plate before anybody can tag him out.
That's got to be so hard to do. Like, in my head when you say that, you know how like they try to run players down in between bases and you're like, juke one player and you get around them? That's what I picture in my head.
I mean, that happens to some extent on plays like this, but usually your coaches, your first base and third base coaches, which we will get to in a show all about coaches, will tell you whether to stop or run.
Okay.
So
you're not just making these decisions on your own.
No, there's usually a coach that's paying attention to what's going on behind you as you're running.
Okay.
It's like, stop. Or, come on.
Yeah.
Okay. What happens with an in-the-park home run, generally speaking, is that a ball is hit in such a way that it drops into a dead zone in coverage.
Okay.
Usually a corner of right field or left field where it's a blind corner.
Okay.
I don't know if stadiums were always just designed this way. I think there are a lot of modern stadiums where they've tried to get rid of some of those blind corners. Fenway is notorious for it. because where the big green monster meets the stands come out by several yards.
So it blocks your
So
view.
there's a blind corner where it meets the big green monster.
Go ahead, Eli.
Also, not just Fenway, also Chase Field in Arizona has those dead zones too, like big dead zones.
So are these, when we say blind zones, when we say, or blind area,
Or up the gap, gaps.
what does that mean? Like, if I was a player, right, and then that ball went into that space on the field, I wouldn't be able to easily see back in.
No, well, what it really is that they're kind of more dead zones where they're just really hard areas to get to and cover.
Ah, okay.
So you can't necessarily get to that area easily, even if you're standing in the middle of your section of the field.
Is it just because it's just so far out of the way?
Usually it's out of the way, or like we said, there's a blind cut in the wall. So it makes it harder for you to get there. So say it actually lands where you could get to it, but you haven't, and it bounces into that corner.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Okay. So then somebody's running it down and trying to throw it back in. As long as an error is not made someplace in that relay of the outfielders throwing the ball back in,
Right.
then it's an in-the-park home run.
Which must not happen very often.
It doesn't happen very often. I mean, I can think of maybe two that I know of that happened during those Great Indian years.
Wow.
I mean, it's very, very rare.
It seems like it has to be the perfect storm of things to come together. No errors. It has to fall in just the right place on the field where it will be almost darn near impossible for them to actually get one of the outfielders to get all the way over there and then have the arm, if not, just throw it back from there to make it infield back far enough to throw it to the next person.
Right.
And you just got to be a fast runner.
You have to be a fast runner. Your coaches have to be on it. You have to be on it. You have to be paying attention to everything that's going on.
Right.
Because, like, it can't be what happened in college play a couple of weeks ago where basically this dude stole home. He stole second, third, and home.
That's so crazy.
Okay? Because he became safe at first.
Mm-hmm.
Then he realized that they had shifted over to cover him at first, and nobody was covering second. So then he
just
runs
left
to second, and then he realizes nobody's covering third because the third baseman shifted over to second to cover him. Then he gets to third. He realizes that the catcher had shifted up to third to try to catch him at third, so he made it home.
So he just like kept noticing these gaps where it's like taking that one.
Yeah. So that was actually considered stealing all those bases and not an in the park home run because the error was the fact that they didn't have anybody covering the bases.
Gotcha. I can't wait till we get to that part of the next like couple episodes when we talk about errors and stuff like that.
And base coverage and all of that.
And shifting and whatnot.
So
okay.
And the last part of the field that I had on here were the baseline fences.
Okay.
Okay. So now you've got in major league parks netting that goes quite a ways down the side of the field. In your basic high school park, you still just have the baseline fences that are generally in front of the dugouts.
Mm-hmm.
And these fences are there to protect spectators and players from foul balls.
So the way that you describe it, this must not have been, they either weren't there or they weren't as big as they are now.
So originally, back in the day, again,
Such grandma voice.
I'm old.
Back in the day.
Look, my dad's been using that voice since I was in high school, okay?
It's terrible.
Back in the day, when you would go to watch things at Jacobs Field, because that's what it was at the time.
We have to always look over when we say that.
I just want to make sure he's not trying to cut my mic when I say it.
Right.
So, you would only have the netting straight behind the catcher.
Okay.
Like right behind home plate. It maybe went about halfway down the dugouts, which most stadiums, the dugouts are along the first and second base lines.
Right, right.
some of them, they're a little further down than others and whatever, but in most stadiums, they're right there. So we can say in general, they may have gone about halfway down the dugout.
Okay.
If a team wanted to put the extra protection in.
Oh, so they didn't have to do it.
Only in the last 15 years or so have they had to, and only in the last about 5 years have it had to expand as far down as they do now.
Wow.
And it's because of broken bats flying into the stadium. It used to be that they only worried about foul tip balls, which is why it was only behind home plate.
Right, right.
So that foul tip hits up and flies backwards into the crowd.
Right.
Well, now with the strength of the hitters, there are more bats being broken than there ever were. Bats didn't used to break as much, and I don't know if there's actually like a spec on it that, has changed or something.
Yeah.
But back when I was in high school watching, if this many bats broke, they were investigating for a corked bat.
Right.
But there's a lot more of them that break nowadays. I don't know if it's overuse of a particular bat because players have favorites. So
okay.
I'm going to just only use this bat.
one particular one. Superstition or whatever.
Right. And, maybe it's overuse on the bat and they just can't get them to change it out or whatever.
Right, right.
But there have been a lot more issues with broken bats flying into the crowd, with a lot more with line drives, where, you'll get a foul line drive, which basically instead of a line drive that goes straight out into center field or straight out into right field, you will get a ball that will have the speed and the strength of a line drive to center.
Yeah.
That's flying out over the third base foul line.
Wow.
Or the first base foul line. And if it goes into the stadium and it hits some kid on the head.
Yeah.
Then that poor kid, at the very least, has a concussion.
And we were talking about that before the show, about how people were like up in arms about this. They were so upset because they weren't going to be able to catch these pop flies or these foul balls that go flying backwards. But then you said, it made an excellent point, like, you're not the ones we're worried about. You brought a glove for these exact moments. We're talking about the people, which is the great majority of folks who are sitting there who don't have a glove, who are little kids, who can't take a 50-mile-an-hour foul ball flying at them.
Well, and I believe the one that got people super charged up and got most of the netting put up was actually a pregnant woman that got hit.
Really?
So, and she wound up in the hospital.
Wow.
So, baseball, while it seems like a very genteel game,
it
comparatively,
does. Like a very, almost like gentlemanly game, like golf.
It can have its dangers, and it's one of those things to know that if you ever go down to a game, to be aware of. Don't ever let yourself get so
comfortable
or wrapped up in something else.
Yeah.
That's one thing I will say is that a lot of times as I'm watching, when I do get to watch games, you see a lot of people that are just sitting there looking at their phones while they're at the game. If I was at a game, I'd be watching the game.
Right.
It used to be in the past you would occasionally have the guys that would have like their transistor radios and their little portable TVs with them. And yes, Eli,
were you one of those people?
No, I was not.
Was it because you were too young? Because I feel like nowadays, if that was still a thing, you would probably do it.
Yeah, I was too young, and just a waste of time. You got the ball game right in front of you.
Well, but people would have their little portable TV or their transistor radio, maybe have the headphone on one ear,
yeah,
so that they could listen to the color commentary while watching the game.
Huh.
Now, one thing that some people may not know unless you've gone down is that when you're walking on the concourse, they actually have the radio play.
They do.
Playing down the concourse.
Yeah.
Back in the Municipal Stadium era, they actually had the TVs playing to the TV coverage. So you could walk down the concourse and watch the TV while you were getting your snacks.
Wow.
But you don't have to totally geek out in order to get the color commentary, because some of those people, they would be scoring the game themselves and they're listening to the color commentary so they can hear what the officials have said about
such and such and such and
whatever.
Right.
Or why is the umpire now, yelling at whoever, or why is so-and-so getting kicked out of the game or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they make announcements in the game, but sometimes those people don't want to. They want more of a story.
Right.
So, but pay attention to the game.
Right. That's what you're there for.
Because that's one of the issues, I think, is that, the fact that we aren't paying attention to things
like we used
in
to.
general as we used to.
Right.
When you're at a game and you're not paying attention, you're much more likely to get popped in the head.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean,
it's kind of one of those occupational hazards. Like if you go into a baseball game, you could get hit with a ball.
Right.
Or a broken bat.
And at a major league game, they've got netting and they've got things set up to protect you now. But if you're going to a high school game.
Right. College game.
The college game has a little bit more of that because their stadiums are set up more like minor league stadiums.
Okay.
So they do have a little bit more protection. But if you're just going to your local high school game.
Yeah.
Your high school can't afford necessarily to get the state-of-the-art protection.
Right. Makes perfect sense. Perfect sense.
But that's what I had for the field of play. Any other ideas or questions that you could think of?
I mean, I think that's a good basic outline of what you'll see when you look at it. And how even though, like, there's the same basic elements, everyone is different in its own way. Like, because like you said, baseball park design is almost as intricate as golf course design. Like, there's a method and a madness to why certain things are the way they are.
I mean, unless you're certain teams and you've just decided to throw a hot tub out in the middle of your center field wall, because there's a couple
again?
like that.
Huh?
Which field is that, Eli?
Oh, I'm sorry. Chase Field, actually.
Why?
Yeah.
Why is there a hot tub?
It's not a hot tub. It's a swimming pool.
No. There's one that has a hot tub. I think it's in Florida.
Why?
Probably, Miami.
The Marlins?
Might be the Marlins, or it might have been the Rays.
Why do we need a swimming pool or a hot tub?
No, I don't think it's one.
It was a party tub.
Yeah, I don't think it's one at Tropicana.
Okay.
Somebody answer this question for me.
It was a party club. You paid extra for the tickets for it. It's kind of like how we have the beer deck.
But okay, instead of beer, you get to be in a pool drinking Mai Tais.
You get a party tub. Yeah.
Okay.
I know in football at
whatever brings
the
them
Jacksonville Jaguars have a pool on top of their deck. So, they're it's like a party.
It's like a pool party.
But
whatever brings them in.
Anyways, Dr. Robinson had his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And yes, Dr. Robinson, you have a question?
One thing I wanted to touch on, and you said many ways of hitting a home run. You forgot about once you hit a home run and it hits the foul pole. If it hits the foul pole, then it's a home run. I just want to say that.
Okay, so and it may be that
in
rules have
fair
changed
ground,
a
in
little
fair
bit,
ground,
because back in the day,
back in the day. Sorry. Don't you do it, Elijah.
The thing was, like, if it hit the foul pole, like square on, it was a foul. But if it hit the outside edge of it and kept going.
Is it like that weird rule in tennis where, like, if it hits the line just right?
Basically, if it hits the line this way, it's out, and if it hits the line that way, it's in.
Yeah. Are foul poles still a thing in baseball stadiums?
Yes, they are, and they're those really tall yellow poles just at the end of the third base and first base line, going back into left and right field.
Okay.
So it's what's to tell you once that portion of the field kind of opens up a little bit more, where foul is.
Gotcha. Because there's
not a line there anymore.
Yeah.
And if you go into the stadium before you hit first base, it's pretty obvious.
Right.
If you go into the stadium seating after first base, but before you hit a certain point, where is it a home run? Where is it not?
Exactly. So it gives you that, like, clear, okay, from this angle to this. Okay. I got it. Good call. We didn't mention the foul pole, so that's a good call. I'll give you your props there, doctor.
Yeah,
Should have
and
never gave him a bell and should have never called him doctor because now he's no good.
Eventually, we will also like get into some of the fun things, like what happens when a home run goes over the end of the stadium and into the parking lot.
Ooh, yes. Oh, here he goes.
Jim Tomey did that.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Several times.
And he wasn't like...
He was my favorite player of that era. So...
Shout out to Jim Tomey. It's interesting because I do at least know these names because of how good our team was at that time. That's the only reason I know anything about baseball. That's because that was that one chunk of time when a local team was really that good. Before the Cavs won a championship and then we...
Well, I mean, and the thing is that, like I said, if more stuff was on local TV,
yeah,
I would be watching more often. I would know more of our team.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I can't get into watching, like I said, I don't get into watching the Dodgers play the Giants. And
right.
like,
I feel like unless you live there, you're like, who cares?
Well, and you always have like your favorite players. And so, I did occasionally watch other teams when my favorite players went other places.
Yeah, yeah.
But it still wasn't like, the team wasn't the same.
Mm-hmm.
So...
But I think this is a good begin. This is just to introduce you guys to what the difference is between the baseball field in your head and how Major League Baseball fields differ. So the layout is different. Okay, here's a quick...
similar, not matching.
Right. Here's a quick question. So before we, wrap up the show, between parks... Is the size of the field pretty much the same? Is the outfield change?
So I believe there's a minimum for what the length is on what center field is.
Okay.
But you can have center field range vastly. Progressive field. Before Eli brings out a ruler and smacks my knuckles. Progressive field is one of the smallest fields in Major League Baseball.
Really?
Yes, and it's only 360 something yards.
Yeah, about that amount. But
from
home plate to center field.
Really?
The back of center field.
So okay, what's a Wrigley Field?
I would have to look that up. Wrigley is one of the larger fields.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say the largest fields. I know.
What you said?
I said larger.
Okay, larger.
In comparison, that we're using our Progressive Field as like our measuring comparison.
Because I know that center field wall at Chase Field in Arizona is pretty big. It's like 410 feet.
And it's weird. When you hear it, it sounds like, oh, that's not that much of a difference. But running that distance between 325 to 410 feet is a lot.
Well, and you're not running that whole distance. You're only running from second base.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
field.
like, from when you measure it out.
I mean, that's why it's so hard to hit home runs in dead center because,
it's so far back.
It's so far back.
Yeah.
So, officially, Wrigley Field has never had a marked center field center. Mm-hmm. But their unofficial measurement is 390 feet.
Right.
How do you go with now having an official...
Well, I think it's
measurement?
Because of the way the field was designed, it being a 1919 field.
And the
and
Ivy,
and the Ivy and all the other things. It doesn't really have... Most fields nowadays have like a curve towards center. And I think it's a little bit flatter.
Okay. Gotcha.
So it's not quite fanned like most
to
fields
find an
are.
exact middle. Okay.
So they've never officially measured it, but
So that's good to know when you're watching. Like some parks it's easy to get a home run. Other parks you gotta be real strong to do it.
Yes, and there's also a difference between that hitting it just to the center field wall, just over the center field wall, and as Jim Tomey did, hitting it straight over the scoreboard and into the parking lot.
Actually, when it was called, at Progressive Field, I remember Mike Napoli, when he played for the Tribe, he actually hit the scoreboard. He hit the scoreboard like the Key Bank sign. Mark McGwire did the same thing in '98 too.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Mark McGwire's a different story. That's a controversy episode. But anyway.
I was gonna say that's in the Cheats and Scandals episode.
We'll come back to that. But yes, I think they covered a lot. And you got some good facts in there too. Because there's a lot of stuff that I picked up on in this that I didn't realize about the layout of an MLB field. So if we miss something, if there's something that you guys are like, oh, but I don't understand what this is or whatever, let us know. You have multiple ways of contacting us. Bueller, any last thoughts? Anything, Eli, that we missed? Dr. Eli? You feel like we covered it adequately to your satisfaction? Okay.
So just a quick point as we get ready to go off the air today. The next show is actually going to be a quick Masters
recap,
post-game show or post-tournament show.
Yes.
We will actually be recording it halfway through the tournament, but Gina is going to come over on that Saturday and watch it with me. And I'm going to record all of her questions that she still has while we're watching.
Because I will have an undetermined amount, but I'm sure I'll have several.
But we wanted to let you know that we will also touch on some of the things that you have let us know that we could clear up a little bit about golf for you.
Yes.
And then we're going to work on an NFL draft show.
Yes.
Because the draft is coming up. And...
Uh-oh. Go. In case you're wondering, that's the sound that it makes when it's the next draft pick, right?
That is the ESPN sound that is made when the draft pick is in.
Yes. I've watched enough of those with him to know.
That is an ESPN original sound, I think. And then the NFL took it.
Thieves. No. So we got some variety coming up to kind of break up the monotony. That can be baseball.
And then we'll be back in a few more weeks with baseball positions.
Yes.
So we'll talk about what a first baseman covers, what a second baseman covers, how much field a center fielder can actually cover.
Exactly. You'll kind of see how all this why we started with the field layout and then why the field out layout is for these positions and why you need to know what is what. So you'll see it all ties together. We thought this through for you so that way it would roll into logically.
Again, we're building you a scaffold.
Yes.
So that you can climb higher and higher.
You will ascend to the peak. And the peak is being able to watch a baseball game and have a good grasp, not an expert grasp, but a good grasp of what's happening when you're there or watching it on TV.
So I just wanted to let everybody know that that's what we have planned coming up for them, so that they can let us know if there's anything before we get to these shows that they do want us to cover, because we're answering the questions that we have. Right.
We want to know what questions you have. What are things you run into? Maybe when you are watching before we get to a topic, if there's something like, hey, they talked about this on a game or I heard this in a conversation and I don't understand what they meant. Can you guys break it down? We will happily do that for you. You just got to let us know.
Or, what does it mean when a team trades all of their draft picks away for a player that they don't really need? But anyways.
Moving on. If you do have questions, if you just want to give us feedback on how you like the show, you have several ways to contact us. Gmail, wwsports22@gmail.com. Twitter at wwsports22. Facebook at Wait What Sports. All individual words. Do not try to look it up as one word. It will not come up that way. Instagram, Wait_What_Sports. And then we are also on Spotify. So if you miss any part of this episode, if you just want to share it with your friends, your family, your coworkers, the stranger on the street, and be like, hey, I heard this great show, and I think you should listen because it's just that good. You should do that.
Because we're hilarious.
Yes, we truly are.
Or so I've been told.
We've gotten good feedback. So we appreciate you guys taking the time to listen. We hope you got something good from this. Please be in contact with us, and we will be back in a week.
Yes.
With the next episode, which is going to be our, again, post-Masters coverage of the questions that I inevitably had and the questions that you might have had. So until next time, on behalf of myself, Amy, and Dr. Eli over there, Dr. Robinson, we thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Take care.